Hey guys, it's Michelle from Cozyegg, and today is Friday, May 18th, 2018. I have not had a chance to vlog at all this week, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I thought that since I had some time while Eric's gone this evening, I would just sit down and do a video. And as you can see, it's, about 6:30 at night, and so I'm getting some interesting light coming in the window, which kind of looks cool. So I'm just gonna leave it. But it's a pretty day out today, albeit super warm. We were supposed to get rain this week, and based on the migraine that I've had for 3.5, 4 days, we should have had rain by now. Last night there was lightning and thunder, but no rain. So I'm still hoping it's going to rain at some point soon. Hopefully. So anyway, but as for right now, the sun is shining and my wind chimes are chiming, and there's a little bit of a breeze that my trees are kind of moving around in. So I guess I can't complain too much. So I thought I'd just sit down and do a video and kind of show you where I'm at on Stitch Mania and all that jazz. So I uploaded my last video on Sunday of last week, and I had worked on, what did I work on? I worked on Snooty Parrot, on the Snooty Parrot sampler for a couple of days. I think I worked on that Friday and Saturday and showed you my progress on that. And then Sunday was Dark 13 stitching, because it was the 13th, and so I worked on Jinx a little bit. So I think I showed you both of those in my last video. And then, this week has just been a little, migraine centric. And so I've lost several days of stitching this week because of that. And I still have a somewhat migraine, so that's why my thought process is not firing on all cylinders. So you'll just have to excuse me if I completely lose track of what it is that I'm trying to say. What can I do about it? So let me show you what I worked on. So I have been chatting with Michelle, Farm Girl, and Jen from Felicity Stitches about the With Thy Needle and Thread Birds of a Feather mystery sampler that came out years ago. I was gonna see if I could look and if it would tell me when, copyright 2011, so I'm guessing that's when it came out. So we had been talking about, they had been talking about possibly starting it, and so I jumped in and said, hey, I have this as a whip. I would be happy to stitch along with you guys. And so we decided to start on Monday, the 14th, so this past Monday. And so I got mine out and worked on it that night, and I will show you my progress. So first, let me show you. So this was a mystery sampler at the time that it was released. It was released in 3 parts, And so the first part, basically all you got was the border. And, you know, when I first saw this, I was, you know, at the time it seemed like everybody was doing these, like, you know, multi-part mystery samplers, and I was just kind of like, whatever, I'm not really into that. And I went to my local needle workshop, the Stitch Niche in Arlington, and the owner at the time had started this with the called for colors on the called for fabric, which is Weeks Confederate Gray. She was doing it on 40 count, I believe. I think it calls for 35. And as soon as I saw that red, I was like, dang it, Kathy, now I have to have it. I was not interested in it whatsoever, but that red, now I have to have it. So I got all 3 parts, and so the second part that you got had the alphabet at the top, and then kind of the top of a tree with a couple little birds. And then the third part, spoiler alert, you know, you haven't seen this piece in the last 7 years. The last chart had the whole rest of it. So it's got, let me take that out of there so there's a little less reflection. I mean, and these were, you know, reasonably priced at the time. They were $7 a piece. So the whole thing has, you know, that pretty border with the beautiful red flowers. It's got that alphabet, but the alphabet is done in the same color as the, you know, that outer border. So it's subtle. And then you've got the tree, the birds, a little house on a hill with some sheep. Cute. But really, it was the red flowers that sold me. So, I think also that I had like all of the threads already in my stash. So I got the chart, you know, the other 2 came when they were released, and I bought the fabric. So I got this out, and this was one of the ones that I showed, that I showed, you know, that I was pulling out as part of my sampler mania that I wanted to work on. And so it was just sort of fortuitous that that Jen and Michelle were like, hey, let's go ahead and start this. So I was like, okay, great. I had it pulled out anyway. So here is where I'm at. I've got so much light coming in from that window. So here's where I'm at. When I picked this up, I had this flower done, and basically like all of this right here was done. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna work on putting this other flower in. And just look how pretty that red is. I think the color is Weeks Indian Summer. And it's just luscious. It is so rich and pretty. And especially with some of the other colors, like the leaves and the branches are Weeks Kudzu. So, you know, everything else is a little bit muted, but then you've got this pop of these gorgeous red flowers and those little red buds. So all the called for colors, the called for fabric type, but 40 count. So yeah, it was fun to pick that up and work on it and get a little more done. I mean, and that's basically the top border. I need to, you know, bring these across, and then the corners have a little, you know, have a flower that go up in the corner. But I mean, it's not a huge piece, so that was fun to work on. And you know, anyone is welcome to join in if you have these charts. A really sweet thing happened on my Instagram in the past couple of days. I had posted up a photo of mine, and I think we're using the hashtag WTNT, so with thy needle and thread, birds of a feather, Sal. I'll put it on here so that you can see it. But I had posted up, you know, hey, I'm starting the Sal with Michelle and Jen. Feel free to join in. And someone commented on my Instagram post and said, you know, I looked for these charts, you know, a while back and was only able to find like 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3, and I never could find all of them. And someone else saw that comment and commented back and said, I have all 3 of them. I'm never going to stitch them. If you will pay the postage, I will happily pass them along to you. So I just thought that was the sweetest thing. And I was so happy that that somebody that wants to stitch it is going to be able to do that. So I just thought that was really nice. So that's what I worked on Monday. And that was, you know, at that point I was like, okay, I'm just going to work on this for one night. Since Jen and Michelle are just starting theirs, I'm obviously, you know, I have a little bit of an advantage because I had already started this. But I'm just going to work on it one night, and then I'm going to go, you know, back to my chatelaine and, you know, get cracking back on that. And that's kind of when it all fell apart. So Monday night I went to bed and I was sort of feeling like I was getting a migraine. And I knew that it was because of the weather. So I knew that that was coming. My barometer has been up and down all week. But by the time I got up Tuesday morning, I had a full-blown migraine, and it continued Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I got it a little bit tamped down yesterday, and when I heard the thunder and lightning, I was like, great, now it's gonna rain, all of this pressure will be released, and I should be good. And I was better last night. This morning I've had a little bit, you know, a twinge, like it's coming back, so we'll see how the night goes. But I really wasn't able to stitch for several nights, so, which is super frustrating when, you know, you spend like all day at work thinking about, oh, I can't wait until, you know, work's done and dinner's done and we can settle in and I can stitch, and then you can't. That sucks. So I did manage to get some stitching done last night, thankfully, and hopefully I will also be able to get some done tonight. So I need to make up for lost time on my chatelaine for sure. So here's where I'm at, and I'm just gonna take it totally off the Q-snap because I only have it held on with one side anyway. So, and you have seen obviously close-ups of this in the last 2 vlogs, which it's much easier to see how pretty it is when you're looking at it close up. But I want to give you kind of the whole effect so that you can see kind of how big this sucker is and how big it's getting. So I've got 3 corners completely done. I have this this bottom left corner still to do, as well as, you know, the 2 kind of center parts to those sides, where the staircases are and that center pool. And then I have the middle of the piece still to do. All this has to be filled in. And then I have crystals to put on kind of all over. So that I've been concentrating over here, and I started working on this staircase, and I have the staircase totally outlined. All that I need to do next, let me see if I can do this. So all I need to do next is there are rice stitches that go in there that make up the actual steps that I need to put in. And then these two urns here will get the little beads at the top of them, like these. So they'll get those two little beads on top of them. So I need to do the rice stitches, and then that staircase is done. And then you can see kind of the start of that center pool right here before I kind of get down into working this corner. And you can see that my swirls here on either side of the artichoke bed still have to be beaded. And that's what all those gold beads have to be done. So those take a good bit of time. So I'll have to do those. But I got this staircase put in, and then I decided, you know what, while I'm kind of on a roll and I have the thread, I'm just going to go ahead and do the, oh, you know what, I'm showing you the wrong one. So I did this one at the bottom first. So I was working on this corner that I just finished, and then I started to move across. So I did this staircase and got it totally done except for the rice stitches. And then I decided to move across and do this one on the side. So this one I don't totally have done. I still need to do in between each of the steps and then do the rice stitches. So I just decided I would kind of work them in tandem. So that's my plan. So I've got, you know, one done except for rice stitches, one almost done except for rice stitches. And I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna work the corner. I'm thinking I may work it a little bit differently than I've done the others. I'm thinking what I may do is from the staircase, do this outer border first and then start to kind of fill in, just to mix it up a little bit. So that's where I'm at on Mystery 9, aka the King's Vegetable Garden. And my goal is to have all of the outside complete by the end of the month. So I gotta get with the program and get it done so that I have June to work on the center and then do all of the crystals, so that I'm done by the 27th of June, which is day 100. I think I'm on day 50 something at this point. So, and on my Instagram, I did post, on day 50, I posted a kind of day 1 versus day 50 photo, so you can see the difference. It's a lot of difference. So that's my plan, is I'm gonna try to get this done by the end of the month. Get that whole corner done, including those two side parts, done by the end of May. That's my plan anyway. So I don't have much else to show you in the way of what I'm working on, because I haven't really been working on anything this week, as I mentioned. there hasn't been a whole lot going on sort of otherwise. It's been kind of a strange week. Those days that I lose to a migraine, you know, I kind of feel a little like they're just sort of limbo days. You know what I mean? Like everything kind of goes in a holding pattern, sort of. I mean, I'm still trying to kind of function, and, you know, I still went to work and, you know, still tried to get everything done that needed to get done. I was just a lot slower at doing it, but so they're kind of, I don't know how to describe it. They're just sort of limbo days. The other thing that has been on my mind and has been going on this week is, you know, you guys know that I'm a distributor for Young Living essential oils, and Gary Young, the founder of Young Living, passed away on Saturday. And so it's been kind of a whole week of people sharing their memories and videos of him, and, you know, all of that. He really was an amazing person. And yeah, so it's been kind of a weird week. His memorial service was today, which luckily for those of us that could not go to Utah to attend in person, they did do a live broadcast so that, you know, everyone could experience that. So they had that this afternoon, which I'm a big proponent of memorial services of some sort, because I think it provides you with a little bit of closure around, you know, those things. So anyway, just that, you know, that week of limbo again. So anyway, it's just been a really strange week. And of course the New Jersey retreat is going on this weekend, so it's been kind of fun to, you know, see some of people posting on Instagram and you know, seeing who all's there and everything. And I'm sure it will be fun to see the recaps and, you know, all of that. And the other thing that is going on this weekend is Quilt Market. So I have been, you know, kind of quickly refreshing, you know, my social media so that I can see what Tula Pink is releasing. And she has a new line called Zuma that is, you know, kind of ocean, sea life related. It's nothing at all like Neptune or saltwater. It's definitely its own line, but it has been, you know, really exciting to see that release and see what, you know, what's going along with it. And I always love to see the quilts that she comes with, you know, the new patterns and how the fabrics work and look in quilts. I find super exciting. So, you know I've shown my Hex on the Beach English paper piecing quilt that I have been working on, that's out of her saltwater line, and it looks like they're going to be releasing an updated version of Hex on the Beach through paperpieces.com, which is like the go-to place for English paper piecing, for templates and papers and patterns and all of that good stuff. So it looks like she's going to be doing kind of an updated version of Hex on the Beach, which is exciting for people that missed out on it last time. It'll be fun to see what that looks like in some new fabrics. So yeah, so that's been going on this weekend as well. So I've been kind of watching her feed and what she's got going on. So really the last thing that I thought I'd do, since I decided to do a sit down and face the camera video this week, since I didn't vlog all week, I had talked about it a couple times ago that I thought it might be fun as I'm going through some of my charts and cataloging them and trying to, reorganize how I have things, set up, etc., that it might be kind of fun to show you what I'm going to call from the archives and show you some of my charts that I have in lieu of haul. Since there is never any haul going on here, and you will see why. So I thought that I would go ahead and show you a few of the things out of my stash and share those with you. And, kind of like Carolyn from Off the Grid does her, from the stash. I thought that it would be fun to do from the archives, so from the stash pile. So I thought I'd start with my Adam and Eve samplers. I was watching Trisha from 3L Threads this week, and she has been talking about Adam and Eve samplers, and kind of that's where her love is right now, and has just started on And They Send, which I'm super excited. I think several people have just started on it. So I thought, what better place to start than with my Adam and Eve samplers. And they were also kind of what I started organizing first. So I keep all of my charts in binders, 3-ring binders. And so I have them in protective, those page protector things. I take them out of the plastic that they, the plastic bags that they come in most of the time, and just, get rid of that. Unless they're a smaller chart, that I can just leave them in the plastic, and then I just leave them in the plastic. But most of the time they come out of there. So, and what I am doing, and this may change later, but for now, what I'm doing is I have all of my charts, threads, fabric, whatever there is of that. I keep track of all of my whips and finishes all in an Excel spreadsheet. And so, I have all of my charts listed in my Excel spreadsheet, but I've been pretty lazy about updating it. And as I was selling things off, I never went in and updated it again. So I think I'll sit right here. So that needed to be cleaned up. And then the other piece that I really wanted to be able to see, because I'm a visual person, is I wanted someplace that I could kind of go and sort of like flip through photos of all of my charts, so that, as in lieu of like going through all of my notebooks, right? And I looked at, what is that site? Stitchingly, something like that. And I was hoping that would be a little like Ravelry, where you can go and you can see, pictures of all of your, patterns and all of your whips and all of your finishes and all of that. It's not quite there, or at least it wasn't when I looked at it. It may get there, but at the moment it's not there. And so, I played around with it a little bit and kind of went, I don't know if this is gonna really do for me what I want it to do. So I've been sort of gathering photos of each of these pieces, particularly if I have seen the way that someone has stitched it, and or finished it that I really like. So I've been sort of saving that as a, memory jogger, like, hey, I really like that they used this fabric, or that they, changed it in this way or whatever. So I've been sort of gathering photos that I'm just keeping digitally in a folder, and I'm organizing those folders kind of like I'm organizing my notebook. So I have a whole notebook of Adam and Eve samplers, which is why I started with those first. So I thought I'd just kind of run through these and show you some of the ones that I have, and yeah, that'll be fun. So the first one that I have here is from Threads Through Time, and this is the Ann Nelson sampler, 1828. And it is hard to see from that photo, but Adam and Eve are orange. And so when my friend Siobhan stitched this, I think she referred to it as her Oompa Loompa sampler. But I just love this one. I love the moons at the top. I love the way that the apple tree is done. And I kind of love that they're Oompa Loompas. So it's just a fun piece, and it's big too. I mean, this is one of those crazy ones with the big fold out chart that, I hate trying to make a working copy of, but I really want to stitch that one. Like, I really want to stitch all of these for my Adam and Eve wall. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that I picked this up in a stash sale. So our guild every so often will have a stash sale. And I think I picked that one up as part of the stash sale. This is another one that I picked up as part of the stash sale, and I think I paid like bottom dollar for it. I mean, I think I paid like under $10 for it. And this was a kit. So I have all the threads for it. I will probably replace the fabric because it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's Ada. Whatever. And it's like white or cream. So anyway, so this is for the Cell Museum, and I don't know that I'm saying that correctly, which is in Germany. And this is done by Perman of Copenhagen, the same people that do Dutch Beauty. And look how pretty this is. I mean, it's just lovely. It's and it's got this fantastic Adam and Eve at the bottom. And they, it's almost like they're right here at the gate, which I just love that. And it has a similar border to Dutch Beauty, in fact. So I just love this one. And then that big flower in the middle, that big kind of carnation. And so this one is, what did I decide the name of this one is? Some of these repros from the Cell Museum, they're calling this a North German sampler from 1808. And they've got the design number on here, but I don't see anything that really kind of tells me what the name of it is. And then, like in the wreath up here, it says RGST 1808. So, I will look to see how I categorize this. If you're interested, just leave me a comment and so that I can tell you what to look for. The Cell Museum, from what I understand, has since closed down, unfortunately. So some of these are hard to come by. They're so pretty. So there's that. And then this one, this is one that the Attic did, and it was a big stitch along, and you would get a portion of the design like each month or something, if I'm remembering correctly. And this is by Needlework Press, and this is called Anne Wheatley, 1829. And this photo is not great because it's of the antique. But it has this great Adam and Eve down at the bottom. And the colors of this one are really kind of earth tones, or what I might call Emily tones. So it's got kind of those rusts and golds and, you know, those kind of colors, which is a little out of my wheelhouse. But it's very pretty, and it's another big one. And so, yeah, so they did this as a, you know, you'll get part 1, part 2, and then each part they would send you, you got kind of notes with it. And this, at the time, was an Attic exclusive. It was the only place that you could get it. I don't know if that is still the case, but this is Needlework Press. And then this one is, this is Scarlet Letter, and this is the Sun and Moon miniature sampler. And I just love this one because I have such a thing for celestial, you know, sun and moon and stars and all of that. It's a little hard to see that photo, but it's a little tiny thing. And I just love it with the stars up by the moon and those little black dogs. It's a really sweet piece. Put these back in my pages. And you know, there are so many Adam and Eve samplers. I mean, there's tons of them. So this is just a small sampling. This one I bought when I went to market several years ago. This is Praiseworthy Stitches, and this is called Temptation. And I just thought this one was so fun. I may have to close that window because I am just getting so much light out of there. I just thought this one was so fun, and it had that fantastic orange snake. And their model that they had, I mean, this photo does not do this justice. The colors are so bright and brilliant. This was really, and it was big too. I don't remember what the heck they stitched it on size-wise, but it was I mean, it was big. It was probably on a 32 count or something. But I just love this. So fun. So Temptation by Praiseworthy Stitches. They do a lot of Halloween and Christmas designs. This was actually a free design that was on their website. It appears that their website is no longer functioning. So it's a company called In the Company of Friends, and they took this antique Adam and Eve sampler and then charted it. And this was a little freebie on their chart, on their site. So it's just a little sweet piece, but unfortunately, I don't think their site is up anymore. And they are the same ones that did the dark alphabet that I showed back in October, that I was thinking about starting for Dark October. They did that dark alphabet that was a big freebie design in honor of Lisa. So they're the same company that did that. And I think that's why I think their site's no longer up, because I think I went out there looking for the link to that, and I think their site's down. This one, a friend of mine just recently gave to me. She had it in her stash and decided, I'm never gonna stitch this. So if you would like it, here you go. So this is by the Traveling Stitcher, who has some fantastic pieces that she has reproduced, but then she just sort of fell off the face of the earth, which is unfortunate because she had some really beautiful pieces. And I believe that there are models of a lot of these that are at the attic. And so this one is called A&E Long and Lean. And unfortunately, the photo of the original is not great. And when I was looking for a photo of this to put kind of in my little digital archive, I was hard pressed to find a photo of it. At some point, I guess somebody had asked to see the reproduction, the model, and she had posted a photo of that, which is a much better photo, but still not great, hard to see. But this is a really pretty piece, which is hard to tell. But I love her pieces. I've got a couple other of her charts, and I wish that she would resurface, because not only did she have her designing business and produce some fabulous charts, but she had a blog that she was always doing color conversions and stitching some really beautiful things. So I was actually really inspired by her, because I'm going to shut these blinds a little bit, because I'm just getting so much glare. Let's see if that helps a little. But she used to do all these amazing, kind of silk conversions and stuff like that. And that's actually part of what, kind of inspired me with my Dutch Beauty, because she did a full conversion to silks for Dutch Beauty. And yeah, she just stitched so many beautiful things, but her blog just kind of fell by the wayside, and then I don't know what's happened with the designing. This is copyright 2014, so I wish she'd come back. Come back, Shannon. So anyway, but it's got this great big bird up here and a great house, and then the A&E down here at the bottom. So I may have to do this in smaller chunks because this may take a while because I have a big stack here. This one is actually, it was published in the Gift of Stitching. So any of you that purchased the Gift of Stitching can go pull this. This was from May of 2009, so I've printed this out. This is by Elizabeth Toledo. I always want to make a y sound for a double L. So this is an Adam and Eve sampler. It's got these crazy big peacocks. It's a very simple, smaller piece. Adam and Eve look a little like they could be on a Geico commercial. Like they are, you know, out of, with that hairdo they've got going on there, like cavemen. But anyway, so that's, if and when I stitch this, I may have to do something with their hair. And then this one. So I think, you know, when I talked about my Jinx piece that's by Raise the Roof, you know, I think I talked a little bit about that Teresa from Shakespeare's Peddler, you know, was half of Raise the Roof. I'm so glad that Teresa is designing again. You know, as Shakespeare's Peddler, she had such an eye for antique samplers and reproducing them, and it seemed like every new sampler that she released I had to have. So I have a whole stack of Shakespeare's Peddler samplers. But this one is Jane Philpott, 1837, and this is an Adam and Eve sampler. And this is a big girl too, but it's got this great Adam and Eve down there at the bottom and this big old snake. It has a beautiful border, and then this ginormous bird that's bigger than the deer, way bigger than the squirrel, up at the top. And I love these trees. Love those trees. So that is Jane Philpott. And I actually, when I was at market, the year that I went to market, she was releasing this one. And so I got to see it in person. I mean, and it's huge. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. This one is actually from, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it's from Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly. And let me see if I can figure out what issue. I cannot. I was hoping it was at the bottom there. But this is the 1836 Mary Hannah Gibson sampler. And it was reproduced by C Street Sampler Works. And so this is another small one. But such a fun little Adam and Eve. So that's in my to stitch pile also. Like, I want to stitch all of these, and 90% of them are huge. There is this one by the City Stitcher. And of course, you know, several folks are stitching that Starry Night sampler, Olivia and Emily and Diana and Tracy P. So you can you can still get her charts. They're not out of print. So this is the City Stitcher, and this is the Adam and Eve sampler. And it's really beautiful. And a really kind of realistic looking, Adam and Eve compared to, some of the ones you see on the antique pieces. Really pretty. And this one was a gift from my dear friend Robert after he finished stitching his. That goes back in there. This is another Scarlet Letter. And this one is called And All Was For an Apple. And I just love this one. So this is not, it's not a sampler. And basically this is, it's just all cross stitch, outlined in that black DMC or silk and then filled in. But I love that blue snake. I love the moon on its side. I love those big crazy clouds at the top and the sun and the stars and this crazy cat over here. I just love this. This bunny and the lion. So this has been in my stash forever, literally. Not started, not even kitted up. This is Sheepish Designs, Temptation, and this is just a little pillow, but it's got some really interesting specialty stitches in it. I mean, you can see the leaves, they're little fig leaves, and the apples. So, for a little tiny cushion, there's a lot going on in there. Those are spider web stitches. The little one's up. This one was in a magazine called Cross Stitch and Needlework. And they did a Cross Stitch and Needlework. I wonder if I can tell you what month or year. Nope, nothing gonna tell me. So this was, here's the antique, and it's got all these greens and pinks and reds, really pretty. And then you look at the reproduction, and it's like, I mean, when I saw this, I just kind of went, okay. I like this way better. So Tanya of the Scarlet House actually did her own conversion, And I think she had it up on her blog. So and they did it in, oh, there's a bird. When they charted this, they charted it in Old Willow Stitchery hand-dyed silk, because everybody has that. Yeah. So Tanya actually did her own conversion. It has a lot more blue in it. And it's not sort of pale and washed out like that their version looked. So, but it's got those great parrots up there. It's got a great Adam and Eve, beautiful border. And then it's got, in these corners, it's got all of these like over one words. So it's a really pretty piece. I will, in the show notes, I will link to Tanya's version of hers so that you can see it. And I'll try to figure out what issue that was in. But hers turned out really beautifully. This one was actually in, I want to say this was in Just Cross Stitch not too terribly long ago, June 2016. You know, when they were trying to pretend that they were really going to do some actual samplers in the magazine and not just a bunch of crap. So they did this one, Adam and Eve sampler, and this was done by Needlework Press. And they actually charted this on perforated paper, which I'm not going to do that on perforated paper, but I thought it was interesting, you know, with the cross and with the smaller tree. Normally you see Adam and Eve with a big tree. This is more like a shrub. And then this big pretty bird here. So it's very simple, but I thought it was interesting. So that was in Just Cross Stitch, if you can believe it. This one is With Thy Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais, and this is called Anne Sandals. Now, the funny thing is, I've had this in my stash forever. And I didn't realize it was an Adam and Eve until recently. This is not a traditional Adam and Eve. They do have their clothes on, and they are dressed in, you know, clothing of the day, I suppose. It's got this great house at the bottom. It's got this fantastic border. The photo of this, I don't think does it justice at all. But I do know that folks have had, much like the mystery sampler, folks have had a hard time with the color of these letters, because it obviously makes it very difficult to see it because they are pale, pale, pale. And I don't know what color fabric this called for, but you really have to do it on some darker fabric to get that to show up. Let me see if this tells me. So she called for 30 count R&R iced cappuccino. This photo on the back is actually a little better, because you can see kind of how bright those and vibrant those reds are. So anyway, But I thought that one was really pretty. And it's funny that I've had it for so long and didn't realize until recently that it is technically an Adam and Eve as well. This one is also what I'm going to call a non-traditional Adam and Eve. And so this is by Brenda Keyes from the Sampler Company. And this is called the Parrots Sampler. And some people might not consider this an Adam and Eve, but what I call this is an implied Adam and Eve, because you have the tree, you have the serpent, but Adam and Eve themselves are not present. You've got the two parrots, these little butterflies or bees, these two fantastic birds down at the bottom. And this is all done in NPI silks in these gorgeous, vibrant shades of blues and turquoise and greens and yellows. I just absolutely fell in love with this. And I have actually started collecting the NPI silks for it, but I only have like 3, and it calls for like a bazillion. And I bought this from the Attic, and actually it looks like the Attic did a conversion from DMC to NPI. So the sampler itself may not call for NPI, it may call for DMC. And it's a good thing I'm looking at this, because my thread conversion for my other Brenda Keyes sampler that I have is in here. So I probably should not leave that in here. But I just love that. I just think it's so pretty. And of course, Brenda Keyes charts are too tall to fit in my notebook, so this kind of sits by itself. And so I talked about the museum at Cell that had some fantastic antique samplers, and many of those have been reproduced. My friend Sylvia, when she visited the museum, purchased copies of, purchased charts of one of these fantastic samplers that was charted. And let me show you the picture of it. So it's got the fantastic border down at the bottom. It's got our alphabet borders down at the bottom. It's got an Adam and Eve. It's got this humongous house building. It's got this fantastic, you know, sort of water fountain. It is just stunning. Lobster. I mean, just amazing. I can't even get the whole thing in the frame. So I have that to stitch at some point. And the chart is like not even lying. Right? And if you can stitch from that, go for it. But I had to give you the whole, you needed the full effect. Yeah. So I need to get moving, right? And then I have two books that have A&E samplers in them that I wanted to show you. This one I've shown you before. This is the Good Heart Samplers that was published by Needleprint way back in the day. And I actually have as a whip the sampler that's in here, the Scottish sampler. And I never did find a good photo of it, I don't think. But I mean, this is a stunningly beautiful book. And I'm so glad that I have it. I mean, Needleprint just really, here it is. Needleprint did some beautiful, beautiful work photographing and documenting, you know, all of these beautiful pieces. Just stunning. So here is the sampler that's charted that I have as a whip. This Scottish sampler, and what I love about it is that Adam and Eve down there at the bottom, one of them is blue. And it's got this, you know, that all of the typical Scottish things, like all those curly Q letters, you know, that big sort of caterpillar looking thing there in the middle. Adam, you know, all the fun stuff down at the bottom, Adam and Eve and the peacock and all kinds of stuff. It's got this great border. I just love it. Just don't love the fabric I'm stitching it on. Here's a closer view. So it's got like the boxers. Yeah. So that is charted on the inside of the cover. And then the last book that I have, this was actually a gift from my friend Sylvia, and there are some beautiful, beautiful samplers in here that are charted. And these are so Reflet de Soie. That's who this book is by. So let me find you. I mean, there's several beautiful samplers in here that are all charted. I love this one. With that brick house. This one, I love the colors in this one. With those sort of, that tulip border, that big cat in the middle. Love this. And I love the fabric they did this one on. That kind of dark bluish gray. Or not dark, but you know, not typically what you see samplers on. Isn't that pretty? But the Adam and Eve sampler, this is called Margaret Hugh, and She stitched the original when she was 10. Whoop. So Adam and Eve there in the center. Look at that pretty deer, big house. This big sort of parrot with the flowers in his mouth. That big basket at the top. I just love this. Isn't that pretty? So, yeah. So that's a little peek into some of the stuff in the archives. And those are just some of my Adam and Eve charts. Do you see now why I never have haul? Like, if I could ever just stitch all of this, this would probably take me the rest of my life, based on how slowly some of these other things are going. But, yeah, I don't need any more stash. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing some of these. It was fun to go through them and share them with you, and share some of, you know, my thoughts about them and where they came from and all that good stuff. So, yeah, so I think that's it. I think that's all I've got. I am going to go sit and see if I can get some stitches in on my chatelaine and put all of these charts back away. So next time I do a sit down video, I'll see what else I can pull out as I'm going through them and, you know, pulling photos of them, putting them in my spreadsheet, all that good stuff. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I will, like I said, I will look for, I will have, you know, kind of a list of everything that I showed in my show notes, and if I can find a link to whatever the heck that was that I was going to link to. Oh, I was going to link to Tanya's blog to show you her Adam and Eve sampler that she did the color conversion on. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I got going on. I'm going to work on my chatelaine and try to get more done. Like I said, I want to get that whole outside finished by the end of the month. So my Stitch Mania participation, my Sampler Mania may be a little bit, you know, kind of fits and starts, but I figure I'm going to work on this, and if I get to a stopping point, or if I start to kind of get that itch like I need to work on something else, I've got all of the rest of my samplers that I pulled to work on for Sampler Mania, so I can just pick one up and work on it a bit. And if you want to join us for the Birds of a Feather stitch along, please do. And yeah, that's it. So happy stitching. All of my show notes I put on my blog. I have been remiss in doing that in a timely manner, but as of, I think, today or Sunday, because I've got it scheduled, they should all now be there. So I try to include the specifics of anything that I talk about, whatever. And I'm trying to get better about doing some other blog posts as well. So feel free to go check it out. And yeah, I think that's it. So thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. If you're in New Jersey, I hope you're having a fantastic time. And I will talk to you next week. Bye.